Hello, my name is Matthew Yeomans. Thank you for viewing my presentation. My presentation is titled, Eye-Hand Coordination and Postural Control Vary According to Changes in Cognitive Motor Load. People perform eye-hand coupling tasks faster and with greater accuracy compared to eye-hand decoupling tasks. However, these tasks are almost always performed in a seated position. Recent literature shows that pointing errors from constrained seated positions may disappear when performing the same task in a less constrained upright position. These tasks are said to vary in their amount of cognitive demand. Task demands may also influence postural sway. Therefore, the main goals of our study were to determine whether or not performance of eye-hand coupling and decoupling tasks differs when participants perform the task sitting or standing, and then to observe whether or not performance of eye-hand decoupling tasks alters postural control while standing. 18 healthy young adults who were all right-handed participated in this study. Task instruction was to move as quickly and as accurately as possible and to stop in the center of each target. There were 4 peripheral target directions, being left, right, up, down, and they were presented at a randomized order. 2 conditions were performed. The far right picture says EH and EHR, being the 2 conditions. EH was the eye and hand together condition, or the coupled condition. For this condition, the eye moved to the target as well as the hand. EHR, or the far right picture, shows the eye to target and hand away from target, or the decoupled condition. This was when the eyes moved to the target as the hand moved away from the target. Each condition was performed twice, 40 trials per condition, and hand variables and center of pressure variables were observed. Hand variables were total movement time, reaction time, peak velocity, endpoint error, and center of pressure variables were normalized medial lateral displacement, normalized anterior posterior displacement, normalized radial displacement, and velocity. The targets were presented slightly below eye height at about 80% of the total arm length of each participant. Now let's discuss significant differences. There were no significant differences based on posture, meaning that the task performance was the same when performing the task in a seated or standing position. There were also no condition by posture interactions. For the hand variables, the conditions had the most significant effect, meaning that for total movement time and reaction time, the EH condition was lower compared to the EHR condition. And for peak velocity, EH had greater peak velocity compared to EHR. EH also had lower endpoint error compared to EHR. Now let's discuss center of pressure variables. For center of pressure, the EHR condition had lower normalized anterior posterior, lower normalized medial lateral, and lower normalized radial displacement measures compared to the EH condition. Now let's review and summarize our results. Hand variables vary between task conditions, but not between postures. Reaction times, movement times, and endpoint errors were smaller and peak velocities were larger for coupled versus decoupled eye-hand coordination tasks. There were no significant differences between sitting and standing, and there were no significant interactions between condition by posture. During EHR performances, participants decreased postural sway compared to sway during EH performances. This showed reduced normalized medial lateral, anterior, posterior, and radial center of pressure in the decoupled eye-hand coordination task condition. There were no significant differences for center of pressure velocity. Now we're going to talk about our main discussion and conclusion points. Eye-hand decoupling produces poorer temporal and spatial performance compared to eye-hand coupling, regardless of body positioning. Therefore, we conclude that standing does not increase the visuomotor or cognitive demands for task performances. We also note that postural sway decreases with decoupled compared to coupled eye-hand coordination task performance. This may be related to increased attentional or suprapostural demands, or it could be related to increased velocity of the hand during the EH or couple condition. Our main takeaway points are that the use of cognitive motor demand for suprapostural control decrease postural sway.